On this edition of Early Look, I'm going to be previewing the featherweight fight headlining UFC London March 21st at the O2. My name is James Lynch. If you've never watched the show before, I'm going to go through a bunch of different stats and intangibles, and then I'm going to give you my pick and prediction for this fight at the end of the video. Let me know in the comments after you're done watching today's video which way you're leaning on this fight. Would love to hear from you. And let's do a quick tail of the tape between these two. This is going to be the main event. It's a 5-round fight. Evloev, you can see there, 19-0, 17-0-1 for Lerone Murphy, both undefeated. 32-34, 5-7-5-9, 72.5 to 73. So you see Lerone Murphy going to be about 2 years older. He's a little bit taller and a little bit longer as well in this fight. Both have about similar amount of fights as well, 18 to 19. Pretty interesting fight on paper now that I've had a chance to kind of dig into the stats a little bit here. So I mentioned it there. It is a 5-round fight, and we're going to start first with Movsar Evloev, who is looking to get that title shot, just like Lerone Murphy is. So I mentioned it there. He's 19-0. He's got 3 knockouts, 4 submissions, and 12 decisions. Currently ranked number 1 in the featherweight division outside of champion Alex Volkanovski. He is 32 years old, 5'7" with a 72.5-inch reach. So he's 2 years younger than Lerone Murphy. He's got fight of the night one time against Diego Lopez. He's got the 5th longest win streak in UFC featherweight division history at 8. He's tied Cub Swanson and Andre Fili for 3rd most decision wins in UFC featherweight division history. And he's the first fighter to start his UFC career with 9 straight decision wins, which has actually been a bit of a detriment to him because he hasn't finished an opponent in the UFC yet. So that's been kind of tough for him. So I mentioned it there. He is 9-0 in the UFC. Some notable wins for Evloev include Dan Ige. They actually have some common opponents too. So Dan Ige, Diego Lopez, Arnold Allen, and Aljamain Sterling. Movsar Evloev did not have an amateur debut. He went straight to the pros in November of 2014, made his UFC debut way back in April of 2019. He's had a bunch of layoffs, and so does Lerone Murphy as well. But let's go through some of these. These are a bit surprising, just to kind of show you, that he hasn't fought that much, just for a variety of different reasons. So if you go from the Hakeem Dawodu to Dan Ige fight, there was a 357-day layoff. Going from Ige to Lopez, there was a 336-day layoff. Going from Lopez to Allen, just 259 days. Going from Allen to Aljamain Sterling, there was a 322-day layoff. And then going from Aljamain Sterling to Lerone Murphy, 469 days. This is the longest layoff Evloev's had in his UFC career. Something to keep mind of. He actually didn't fight at all in 2025, so it's been a kind of a tough year. Tough little bit there for Evloev as he looks to get a fight. He's had a couple close fights in his career if we go back and look a little bit here. So if you go look at that win over Enrique Barzola back in October of 2019, if you look at MMAdecisions.com, that's where the media can submit their scorecards. 5 media members scored the fight for Evloev, 4 scored it for Barzola. So that's a fight that was a little bit close for comfort. Probably should have been a split decision win there. Of course, there's the Arnold Allen fight at UFC 297. That was back in January of 2024. 11 media members scored the fight for Evloev. 1 scored it a draw and 5 scored it for Allen. I hear people talking about that being a robbery. I was at that card in Toronto. I thought Evloev won. It was close though. And then there's the Aljamain Sterling fight. Again, I've also heard some people say, I thought Sterling won. Well, it says otherwise here on MMAdecisions.com. If you look back, that was at UFC 310 back in December of 2024, his last fight. 11 media members scored the fight for Evloev. Just 5 scored it for Aljamain Sterling. So again, all the fights that Evloev has been in, most people have thought that he's won those. Let's look at his stats. So if we look here, significant strikes landed per minute, 3.99. Output's pretty good. Striking accuracy is at 48%. His striking defense is at 60%. Doesn't get hit that much. Takedown average, look at this, 4.67. His takedown accuracy is at 48%, and his takedown defense is 61%, although I doubt Murphy's going to be shooting for some takedowns in this fight, so pretty impressive stats. So that's everything you need to know about Movsar Evloev. Let's look across on the other side to his opponent, Lerone Murphy, who's going to have the crowd on his side here, being from the UK. He's 17-0-1, like I mentioned. He's got 8 knockouts, no submissions, and 9 decisions. He, like I mentioned, they're 34 years old. 5'9" with a 73.5-inch reach. So he's 2 inches taller and has a 1-inch reach advantage in this fight. He's currently ranked number 3 in the featherweight division. He's got fight of the night 1 time against Edson Barbosa. He's got performance of the night 2 times against Ricardo Ramos and Aaron Pico. He's got the 4th longest win streak in UFC featherweight division history. Something I should mention, Evloev has not got a fight of the night performance bonus in his UFC career throughout all of his fights. So he had the one with Diego Lopez, but not as much as Murphy is kind of what I'm getting at. Okay, Lerone Murphy had his amateur debut way back in November of 2014. 2014, made his pro debut in March of 2016, made his UFC debut in September of 2019. He is 9-0 in the UFC, just like Evloev is, although he also has a no contest. He's got 3 stoppage victories. Some notable wins include Edson Barbosa, Dan Ige, Josh Emmett, and I'll put Aaron Pico on here. I don't think it's that. I mean, we'll see what Pico ends up being in the UFC. He was more so notable just because he came over from Bellator and had a lot of hype as well. And if you remember, I think Murphy was the underdog in that fight, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he was just a slight underdog there at plus 150. Doesn't have any losses in the UFC. He's had a couple layoffs throughout his career, just like Movsar Evloev. If you go from the Zubiara fight, which was his UFC debut, to Ricardo Ramos, 312 days. Going from Makwan Amirkhani to Gabriel Santos, there was a 473-day layoff. That's the longest of his career. Going from Josh Coulibaugh to Edson Barbosa, there was a 301-day layoff. And going from Pico to Evloev for this fight, just 218 days. Not that long of a layoff there. He's had a couple close fights that I think are worth mentioning here. We'll go through them again on MMA Decisions just real quick. The Zubiara fight, that was in his UFC debut. Again, it was a while ago, back in 2019. But if you look at the scorecards here, a lot of people felt like that should have been a 30-27 or 29-28 at the very least for Zubiara. So that could have been a loss for him there. Then check this out. You look at the Gabriel Santos fight. That was back at UFC 286 in March of 2023. Look at this. Majority of media thought that Gabriel Santos should have won 29-28. Just 2 media members scoring it for Murphy. So again, even though he's undefeated, some of these decisions are a little bit questionable. I thought he beat Dan Ige, but honestly, I don't think that. It was close. Ige, we had 3 media members score it for him. The rest scored it for Lerone Murphy. So Murphy did end up winning that fight, but that was another fight that people reference as being pretty close. So there we go. Let's look at the odds right now. You can see Movsar Evloev, almost a 3-1 favorite here, about minus 290, about plus 215 there for Lerone Murphy. And if you look on Tapology, similar story here from the fan voting, 73% of people picking Evloev, just 27% picking Murphy. And then if we go over to our AI app Fight Signal, you look at it there, 52.1% of AI is favoring Movsar Evloev, just 47.99 for Lerone Murphy. What's going to be my pick? I don't think this is going to be a shocking revelation by any means here, but I'm taking Movsar Evloev by decision, and I'll explain why here in this video. So Evloev's last stoppage win was actually outside the UFC. It was in July of 2018. Murphy's never been finished, although he's been rocked a few times. I think it was Barbosa, and I think Ige cracked him pretty good too, but yeah, still hasn't been finished. So again, more likely Evloev does not finish. That's just been the track record that he's had in the UFC. Murphy's only got 51% takedown defense. That's a bit concerning considering he's fighting a guy that's got good grappling and good wrestling as well. So that's a bit of a concern for Lerone Murphy. Evloev's got 60% striking defense. Maybe some people could say, oh, Murphy's had a couple knockout wins. He just knocked out Aaron Pico. Maybe he catches Movsar Evloev. I don't know. I mean, Evloev does have pretty good striking defense at 60%. There's not a huge difference in the height and the reach, and Evloev is a couple years younger too, so that does give him a little bit of an advantage there. And the last thing I'll kind of mention here, which is really sort of the X factor for me, is the fact that you look at Evloev and who he's fought. To start his career, maybe not the best opposition, but since then, Ige, Lopez was short notice. I know Lopez had some opportunities to submit him. Arnold Allen, Aljamain Sterling. These are all pretty solid wins for the most part. And these were wins that I thought, Allen was close and Sterling was a little bit close too, but I thought he performed well in those fights. Now, if you look on the other side of Lerone Murphy, these fights were a little bit close for comfort. Like Dan Ige was close. Josh Emmett, I'll give him that. That was a solid win there. Barbosa was close too. Like these are fights that I think Murphy, if he was a little bit more dominant in those performances, I'd feel a little bit better about picking him. I kind of feel like, and maybe I'm wrong here, maybe I'm being a little bit hard, but I just feel like Murphy's kind of scraped by in these Barbosa and Ige fights. I think the Emmett fight was very strategic. And again, he's fighting Emmett, who's a lot older. Emmett was 40 at the time when he fought him. So again, you can't take too much away. And the Pico fight was just 2 guys throwing the kitchen sink at each other, and he happened to catch him with a spinning elbow. I'll give him that. But again, we don't know what Aaron Pico is in the UFC at this point until we see how his next fight goes. I still have some question marks about Aaron Pico. Kind of the point I'm getting at is I think we've seen a little bit more solid wins there by Movsar Evloev based off the opposition he's fought. Again, beat a former champion in Aljamain Sterling, Arnold Allen. I think these are better opponents than some of the guys that Murphy's fought. So again, nothing earth-shattering here, but I am going with Movsar Evloev by decision. Will he get the title shot? I guess we'll find out, but we'll see what he looks like. And now, again, 2 concerns just quickly before I exit here. A little bit worried about Murphy's power, just in case he does catch Evloev. That could be a thing. The second thing is the layoff. I did mention it's going to be Evloev's longest layoff in his career. So those are 2 things to consider when you're kind of looking at this matchup. But I don't think it matters. I think Evloev might be the best featherweight in the world. We got to see him fight Volk, but I think he's right up there for sure. So let me know your prediction in the comments. Don't just want to pick. I want to hear how this fight ends up playing out. Let me know in the comments. Make sure you give me a follow there on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, at Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time on the next edition of Early Look.